This is section 7.4 on arc length, number 3 from WebWork. It looks something like this. Find the length of the arc formed by this function, y equals natural log of cosine x, from x equals 0 to x equals 3 pi over 12. So here my f of x is y, or natural log of cosine x. And it looks like I could say x equals 0 to 3 pi over 12, but if I wanted to, I could rewrite this one as x equals pi over 4. Sometimes WebWork doesn't simplify right away, which is fine. Here we just need to know the formula for arc length. So if you look in your notes, it's the integral from a to b of the square root of 1 plus f prime of x quantity squared dx. Now, we only have so many integrals, we only have a couple of examples of functions that make it possible for us to do this integral. This one's going to end up working, but we might need a little help. So let's go ahead and plug in. So they give us our limits of integration from 0 to pi over 4. And I need 1 plus whatever the derivative of this thing is squared dx. Well, the derivative of this, f prime of x, would be cosine x on the bottom. And the derivative of cosine x, which is negative sine x, on the top. And we see that's the same as negative tangent x. So that's what's going to go right in here, negative tangent x. The reason this one ends up turning out okay is it's the integral from 0 to pi over 4. This ends up being 1 plus tangent squared x dx under the square root. Now, you might recognize this identity as a trig identity. This is the same as the integral from 0 to pi over 4 of the square root of secant squared x. Now, technically this should be absolute value of the secant of x, but it's just between 0 and pi over 4, so where secant x and cosine x are both positive, or at least non-negative. So I'm going to rewrite this as the integral from 0 to pi over 4 of secant x dx. Now this might be a formula you have memorized at this point, but it might not be. If you don't have it memorized, you could look back in the table of integrals. I believe it's number 14. This ends up being natural log of secant x, absolute value of secant x plus tangent x, evaluated from 0 to pi over 4. Okay, so if that's a little tricky for you, that's something you might have memorized, or again, that formula is I believe it's number 14 in the table of integrals in your textbook. Okay, the last part is just plugging this in. So this is natural log of absolute value of secant pi over 4 plus tangent of pi over 4 minus natural log of what I get when I plug in a 0, secant of 0 plus tangent of 0. Okay, so I've got to think a little bit about my trig values here. Cosine of pi over 4 is square root of 2 over 2, so secant of pi over 4 is 2 over square root of 2. Tangent of pi over 4 is 1. Cosine of 0 is 1, so secant of 0 is 1 over 1, which is 1. And tangent of 0 is 0. You might recognize that this is natural log of 1. Natural log of 1 is just 0. So the final answer is natural log of 2 over the square root of 2 plus 1. You don't really need those absolute value bars because this is a positive number. So the absolute value bars aren't really necessary there. And there you go.